Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Amongst the different kinds of meditation, there are three that are kind of have some overlapping reference as maranasati, which is contemplation of death, the contemplation of the 32 parts of the body is a form of kayanusati, and asubha meditation, which is meditation on the impermanence of the body through the contemplation of corpses. Maranasati, contemplation of death, is basically a discipline of the mind to make the fact of impermanence real to yourself. Contemplate that I too shall die. In our culture, we tend to try and avoid thinking about death, but the Buddha said you should often remind yourself that you're mortal. You will come to an end. Meditation on the 32 parts of the body is an examination of the constituents of the body, the organs and the fluids, to break up the sense of the body as a discrete, compact unit, to see the kind of dependent and empty nature of the body and overcome self-reference in the body. It also can help with diminishing sensual desire. But the particular meditation that has the strongest effect on diminishing sensual desire is asubha. Asubha is a meditation that looks at the body as impermanent, in that it too is subject to destruction and decay. In ancient India, there were places called charnel grounds, which is where poor people who couldn't afford a elaborate, proper Brahmanical funeral, which consumed a lot of wood for the cremation, they would just take the body out and lay it on the ground and leave it and let it decay there. And the Buddhist monks would go to the charnel grounds and contemplate the decaying bodies. To some degree, this is still possible to do in Thailand. Occasionally, families will donate a body to a monastery, particularly if the body is that of one who has died suddenly, especially by violence, because the idea is if the body is cremated, the ghost will be confused. He died suddenly. He wasn't expecting to die. He doesn't really know he's dead. He's in a state of confusion. And if the body is destroyed, he loses that anchor. But if the body is still present and he sees the body as a ghost, that will shock him into realizing that he is actually dead, and he'll be able to pass on and take a proper rebirth. At least that's the way the people think. So they'll donate a body to a monastery and leave it in the forest. I did see this done once. I was staying at Wat Kun. The abbot there was promoter of this form of Asubha meditation, and I only visited that monastery briefly for a period of maybe 2 weeks. And while I was there was a body in the forest, and the monks had a schedule. You take a turn to go out by yourself to the forest and contemplate the body. The body was in a simple wooden coffin with a lid. You go out to the place and sit on a dais raised above the coffin and remove the coffin lid and place candles around the perimeter and just sit cross-legged on the dais and contemplate the body. I hadn't expected it to be such a powerful experience. It is quite moving to see a human body that's in a partial state of decay. It's not really accessible to get this object of meditation in the modern West, there are alternatives you can do to get some of the effect. One is simply using the imagination. There is in the Satipatthana Sutta, there is a description of this practice that I'll read out because it's quite brief. Again, a monk, as if he were to see a corpse thrown aside in the charnel ground, 1 or 2 or 3 days dead, bloated, discolored, festering, compares this body with that, thinking, this body is of the same nature. It will become like that. It is not exempt from that fate. Again, a monk, as if he were to see a corpse in a charnel ground, thrown aside, eaten by crows, hawks, or vultures, by dogs or jackals, or various other creatures, compares this body with that, thinking this body is of the same nature. It will become like that. It is not exempt from that fate. Again, a monk, as if he were to see a corpse in a charnel ground thrown aside, a skeleton with flesh and blood, connected by sinews, a fleshless skeleton, smeared with blood, connected by sinews, a skeleton detached from flesh and blood, connected by sinews, randomly connected bones scattered in all directions, a hand bone here, a foot bone there, a shin bone there, a thigh bone there, a hip bone there, a spine here, a skull there, compares this body with that. Again, a monk, if he were to see a corpse in a charnel ground thrown aside, the bones whitened, looking like shells, the bones piled up, a year old, the bones rotted away to powder, compares this body with that, thinking this body is of the same nature, will become like that, is not exempt from that fate. So that description has what are called the 9 stages of decay of the body. So you can reference that, although you don't necessarily have to follow the exact stages precisely. One method is to use your imagination that you are in a charnel ground in India, and it's night, it's moonlit, and the people come carrying a corpse, and it's covered in a cloth, and they lay it down and they do some chanting, whatever the little ceremony, and then they walk away. You go over and approach the body and lift the sheet to look underneath, and it's your face. You see yourself. So you can looking at your dead body from outside, and then imagine it going through the stages of decay. At first it looks stiff but peaceful, and then it gradually becomes repulsive looking. It bloats and changes color, becomes blue. Fluids ooze out of cracks. And then it actually becomes, for a while, it becomes rather violent. You have maggots crawling on, gnawing on it. You have crows and dogs coming and biting at it. Then you have all these scattered bones. And then the groundskeeper comes at some point. He rakes the bones up into a pile. And the bones are baked by the sun, and they gradually wither, they dry out and crack and turn to dust, and finally there's a little pile of dust and a wind comes and blows it away. So the end of the contemplation is a peaceful one. It's the wind puffing away the dust, and it's all gone, it's emptiness. So you can run that kind of, again, this is an anusati, like we spoke about the previous talk. It's an exercise using your visualization and your imagination, run through the decaying stages of the body. The references to your own body, that your own body is not free from that your body will be subject to that. Another way of using this, on occasion, we don't really have easy access to dead human bodies, but you often see dead animals. You can see animals killed by the side of the road, or in many kind of situations, you'll see a dead animal, and you can stop when you see one and just contemplate for a few minutes the nature of the body to decay and break up. and always referencing it back to my own body is not exempt from that, is not free from that. Yeah. Now, there should be a word of caution because this is a strong medicine, and it is possible to overdo it to become, the goal is not to become morbidly obsessed with death and decay, but to shake yourself from the delusion of the body being permanent and beautiful, to see it in its nature as a compounded thing subject to destruction. It happened in the Buddhist time that he taught this meditation to a group of monks, and then he went into retreat for 2 weeks. And the monks, after he was not supervising them, they overdid this meditation and some of them developed a strong aversion to the body and wanted to rid themselves of this body and committed suicide. As it says, they took the knife, and committed suicide. So then the Buddha, on learning this, he told the monks to start doing mindfulness of breathing instead, because there's no harm can come of mindfulness of breathing. So this is a caution to, don't be afraid of trying this meditation, but I wouldn't advise you to make it your main practice or to, overdo it. But particularly if you find yourself being obsessed with thoughts of sensual desire, then this contemplation is a very good antidote to that and bring you back to a middle point, a point of balance where you're at peace with the body. You're not swinging to the other end and becoming totally disgusted and averse by the body. That's taking it too far. So that was the main theme of my talk. But now I think I'll say a few words briefly about the other two meditations I mentioned. Maranasati, contemplation of death, is something the Buddha said that we should do often. He said you should remind yourself every day that you're going to die. And the whole point of that is just to remind yourself, I too am subject to death. And in Visuddhimagga, there's a long list of ways of bringing up this contemplation. One is to think that all you know for sure is that you are going to die. You don't know when, you don't know where, you don't know how. One is to think that no one ever has escaped from death, and why should you be a special case? And the Visuddhimagga goes into a long list of kind of subgroups, like even great kings like Asoka and Bimbisara died. How can you, a humble person, escape? And even really wise persons like Moggallana and Sariputta died. How can you escape? And one of these categories that I found kind of extra poignant in a way was, it said, even the famous, even ones of great fame and renown, and it lists a bunch of names. And you would have to be a specialist in Indian history to recognize any of them now. And maybe some of them, nobody really knows who they are. So even their fame has perished. They were at Buddhagosa's time. It would be like saying, like nowadays, it would be like saying Elvis Presley and Marilyn Monroe, famous people that everybody knows. They died, but now these names are even forgotten. So all human existence is impermanent, and we need to just remind ourselves of that. People avoid facing the fact of their death. I recall one time when one of our senior monks gave a public talk about impermanence and the reality of death, and after the talk, there was this woman who was, at the time, she was in her 90s. She was like 95 or something like this. And she came up to Ajahn after and she said, "That was such a powerful talk, Ajahn. It made me really think one day I might die." So, this is people don't look at that reality. But that maranasati is not intended to overcome sensuality. It's intended to bring out a sense of make impermanence real to yourself. The other meditation is the contemplation of the 32 parts of the body. This is a meditation that does diminish sensuality, but that's not really the primary purpose of it. It can be used for that, and it's safer than a subha meditation. It's a meditation you can do at any time to any degree, but its strongest benefit is to overcome a sense of identification with the body, because we tend to see the body as a compact unit and we see it from the outside. So we have a distorted view of the body. We don't see it in its totality. So we're trying to change the perception of the body. So there's a traditional list you can find in many places of 32 parts of the body. Begins with hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin. Hair of the head and hair of the body are two different words in Pali and also in Thai. So those are the 5 external signs. Then it goes through the various organs like heart, liver, lungs, intestines, and fluids like snot, spittle, blood, urine. So you're looking at all the parts of the body. And the way that's recommended to do this is to go through the list in the forward order, go through the list as found, 32 parts one after the other, and then do it in the reverse order and doing it backwards and taking just a short while with each part and visualizing it and trying to see it in your mind's eye, the bones or the guts or the blood. And then at the end, you choose one part that stood out for you, that was easy to visualize, and you just spend some time sitting with that one part, visualizing it. So then at that point, it becomes a samatha meditation, and you can actually take that all the way to jhana. So that's a very brief coverage of those two, but my main theme today was the subha meditation.